got no apologies, Mayor.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today on this beautiful, sunny Yorkshire day. Two brief things to mention before we start the meeting. 2 weeks ago, sadly, Miles Larrington, who you'll know is the clerk of this committee, was involved in a traffic accident on his way home from work and suffered a broken arm. So whilst he's at home recovering, I hope that people around this table would want to wish him all the best. And Miles, if you're watching, get well soon. Please don't do this. Sit in the garden and recover. Can I also pay tribute, please, to Andrew Coley, stepping down as chair of the Combined Authorities Unison branch after 12 years in the role. You know, I am a trade unionist and I really value the contribution of our unions. So I'd like to thank Andrew for his time and dedication to the organisation while serving as chair, and worked really closely with us through a huge amount of change, growth and development, whilst also relentlessly representing employees across the organisation. We are such a different organisation to the organisation 12 years ago, and he's been with us in that dedicated role. So thank you, Andrew, for your service. Now, let's crack on with the rest of the meeting. Sarah, can I ask any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We have no apologies.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Do any members have any interest they wish to declare on any item on the agenda? No, thank you so much. Okay, item 3. And now officers have advised that information contained in appendices 1 and 2 to agenda item 8, Bradford City Village, is treated as exempt under paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as they contain information relating to the financial or business affairs of a particular person, including the Combined Authority, and further it's considered the public interest in maintaining the content of the appendices as exempt outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information, as publication could prejudice current and future decision making. Can we agree the press and public will be excluded should members wish to discuss the content of the appendices when we consider item 8? Thank you so much. Very good. Moving on. Item 4, minutes of the last meeting of 27th of February. Any comments or questions? No? Are we content to confirm them as an accurate record? We are, thank you. Okie doke, moving on to the Mayor's update. I had the huge privilege of welcoming the Prime Minister to the region last week. He was confirming further funding for the Trans-Pennine route upgrade and visited Camira. Some of you may know, an incredible textile manufacturer in Huddersfield who are specialists in making seat covers for buses and trains. They made the seat covers for the London Underground. They're doing some seat covers for the TRU trains, the new trains, and perhaps one day they'll also do the seat covers for our tram across West Yorkshire. And the tram was backed by the Prime Minister during his media rounds, as well as in the spring statement in the document that backed the Chancellor's comments in the House of Commons only a few weeks ago. Mass transit, our tram network, is a central plank of our integrated transport plan. And on today's agenda, we have details of the consultation on our local transport plan. Our ambitions for bus, rail, tram and active travel are clear, and they impact not only on West Yorkshire, but the whole of Yorkshire and, of course, the wider north, which is why it was so important. I stood alongside the mayors of South Yorkshire and York and North Yorkshire in the historic Selby Abbey last month to sign the historic White Rose Agreement, setting out how we'll work together to progress the interests of our great county. I also look forward to welcoming the new Mayor of Hull and East Riding into that agreement after their election in May. That will mean that the whole of Yorkshire has a mayor by May, and Yorkshire is the size of Scotland, and I really do believe the power of that collaboration is going to deliver at speed for all of our regions. Now, one of the first actions of the White Rose Agreement was to commission Lord David Blunkett to work with the three mayors on a rail review for the region with the intention of informing the government's proposed 10-year infrastructure plan. In addition to tram, we're continuing to push on the need for a new through station in Bradford, additional capacity at Leeds City Station, and further electrification of routes across the Pennines and into South Yorkshire. I'm hugely delighted that Lord Blunkett is such a dynamic, strong advocate for this work, and it's incredibly helpful to have someone with his experience championing the needs of the region. Also, finally, if I may, I wanted just to touch on the announcement government made about the future of the NHS, of NHS England. While I'm supportive of the government's plans to improve health services across the county, and the changes they're making have greater ministerial oversight and direction for the health service, our region has benefited greatly from the presence of NHS England and its subsidiary organisations such as Health Education England, NHS Digital and NHSX. We have many skilled and talented staff within those organisations and a flourishing health and life sciences and health tech sector that's developed around it. Over 300 health tech and life sciences businesses clustering in our region. Our region's reputation as the home of the NHS is one of the key planks of our success, both in nurturing homegrown innovation companies and attracting much needed inward investment, and it's a key plank of our local growth plan. The Secretary of State and his team have acknowledged the importance of the sector to our region and the impact of this decision on top of the delay to the development of the new teaching hospital in Leeds. And they understand the impact that has had on the confidence of on the sector in the city. We remain committed to backing businesses to grow and develop in the region, and we'll launch details of our business support programme for the health tech sector as part of our investment zone later this month. I wonder if colleagues have comments on those opening remarks. Is there anything? Claire, please.
Yeah. And so thank you for your role in that, and I'd like to thank Mayor Oliver Coppard and David Scaife for coming together, and I hope that it will be productive for us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to working cross-border. I know that there are a lot of residents in West Yorkshire that would love to get over to Harrogate and to York and to have that connectivity. I think Councillor Lamb has raised this on a number of occasions, and this is going to help us to get to that place. Councillor Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, I'd just like to reinforce those comments about the Wise Rose agreement that you're forging ahead with, Mayor. I think it's a really important piece of work. And obviously with the North West doing their plans, yourself and the other mayors leading on this side of the Pennines, those two plans coming together gives the government a really great footprint for how we see transport going forward in the north of England, and a joint investment plan there for even. So I just really welcome this work and look forward to seeing it develop further.
Thank you so much. Any further comments? No, thank you. Okie doke. So let's move on to item 6. It's the Mayor's West Yorkshire Local Transport Plan statutory consultation. The next item is about ambitions that I have for the fully integrated public transport network in our region: bus, tram, train and active travel, all part of that single offer. Now, we've taken significant decisions on transport over the last year, including the decision to franchise the bus network, progressing our ambitious tram programme. These and other priorities and programmes are being brought together in an updated statutory local transport plan, which we're seeking approval to consult on. So can I first come to Councillor Hinchcliffe, Chair of the Transport Committee, to say a few words, and then go over to Simon Warburton, our Executive Director of Transport.
I'll pass straight on to Simon if that's okay. I think obviously we've talked about this a lot. Transport Committee have had a look at it on several occasions. It is a really important piece of work going forward. Again, talking to government and giving us a tool to have those conversations. But obviously I'll let Simon present.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hinchcliffe. So, as members are aware, the local transport plan is an important document for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it is a statutory plan for the combined authority, so it does give us real teeth in our ability to set out our transport agenda for West Yorkshire, and in the current climate in particular, it allows us to establish a statutory policy framework for a number of our critical programmes, not least making very clear the integration priorities that we are seeking to achieve, particularly through the bus franchising programme as we roll that forward, setting out very clearly a contemporary policy case for the mass transit programme, which will be enormously important in the specific statutory processes that lie ahead for that programme, enabling us to be very clear on our evidence base for that those critical aspects of rail investment and rail service improvement that you've just touched on, Mayor, under the White Rose Agreement, but also in preparation for the statutory role that you will have in due course in Great British Railways, and allowing us collectively as the partners across West Yorkshire to have a very clear investment framework for our transport spending priorities, looking forwards to both the integrated settlement for West Yorkshire and also the second round of city region sustainable transport funding that will sit within that programme. It is also being prepared very clearly to meet the objectives that we've agreed through the West Yorkshire Plan, to ensure that those investment priorities support the spatial and sectoral priorities that you have identified through the local growth plan, and also to ensure that we are continuing to challenge all of our transport policies in the context of the climate and environment plan, which we'll be discussing later on the agenda today. We had a successful consultation in 2024 around the objectives for our local transport plan, and since then there's been a large body of work which is continuing both internally inside the organisation, but most importantly in partnership with the 5 local authorities, and there's a very strong body of ongoing work overseen by the Chief Highways Officers Group and also the Directors of Development. So we're now in a position where we want to propose today and seek endorsement to us making preparations for a summer consultation on the draft plan. My intention would be that we would look to bring forward to the June meeting of the Combined Authority, having worked under the delegated authority that we're seeking with yourself, Mayor, to start to bring that draft plan forward for members. And that consultation this summer will then be very timely in the context of the other work and that wider context across the transport picture that I talked about, and will allow us to get to a position where we can bring forward a final plan for your consideration and adoption in early 26.
Thank you so much, and I'm incredibly excited about this plan and that potential for integration. We've spoken a lot about it, the tap in, tap out, that London style offer, bus, tram, EV bike, rail, overground, all, and have that cohesive narrative across our region. So I think also aligning with our growth plan, corridors that we've identified as well, those transport corridors really important. Any comments? Thank you, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Hopefully a constructive suggestion. Just from previous experience of consultations, not only from the combined authority but from our constituent councils, can I ask that the consultation documents are shared with members before they are published, just so we don't have things like missing Wetherby off the map, because which no, I know, and but also to make sure the language is not officer speak, and it's actually in a language that makes sense to everybody and is relevant to them.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. Vibrant nods from Simon there, so we'll take that away. Councillor Douglas.
Thank you, and yeah, it's really good to see this coming forward. And as an associate member of the combined authority, but an important part of the economic reach of Leeds and of York, I'd like to ask if it's possible that York is consulted, because that is really important. We get that corridor right for both of our benefit, and also the cross-border work. It's really something that I know Councillor Lamb from Wetherby and I are very interested in, so my officers would appreciate being able to respond if that's deemed appropriate.
Thank you. I think that's a jolly good idea, and I also think we should maybe widen that out to South Yorkshire as well, given that we've got the White Rose Agreement. Let's start work as we mean to go on. Okay. Thank you. So we're all happy to approve the statutory 12-week public and stakeholder consultation starting in June, and that the Combined Authority delegates finalisation of the consultation documents to the Chief Executive in consultation with myself. All happy to approve? Great, thank you all so much. Moving on, item 7, school bus consultation. This is another transport consultation, and I'm sure people will recognise getting children to and from their place of education, excuse me, is central to giving them access to opportunity and improving their life chances. As we've just discussed, we're fully committed to creating that integrated, affordable, sustainable, reliable and resilient transport system that connects all parts of our region so everyone can access the places they need to live fulfilled lives. And of course, this includes young people. Consulting on how we deliver on this commitment is an essential component of our future transport plans, which is why I'd urge parents and children across the region please to respond. Can I ask Councillor Hinchcliffe to make some initial comments, and Tim Taylor, our Director of Transport Services, take us through the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, these are services that a lot of families across West Yorkshire rely on, and I know the Combined Authority put a lot of thought into the consultation, really getting views from a wide range of parents, schools and children as we go forward. That is going to be out on the 23rd of April, so also just remind everybody to look out for that and participate, as you say, as fully as possible.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, as the paper sets out, this is a request to proceed with a really important public consultation on allowing the Combined Authority to develop an updated school transport policy. As you say, Councillor Hinchcliffe, starting on the 23rd of April after schools return from the Easter break. So the Combined Authority has statutory responsibility for the provision of school buses, but it also has a number of discretionary services that it provides across the region, which enable pupils to get to their place of education, and around 20,000 pupils in total rely on these services on a daily basis. The policy itself, which covers this aspect of transport, was last reviewed by the Transport Committee in 2019, and I'm sure everyone will recognise that since then there's been significant changes both regionally and nationally to the way that the bus network operates. The existing school arrangements that exist as we speak have built up over time as a number of historic changes and developments in the region, and as a result we have a really varied range of services across the region in terms of their application and use. And as such, also the way in which they are funded is also varied as well. You've heard from the previous paper about our ambitions to create the local transport plan, and in particular its focus on inclusive growth and ensuring people have access to opportunity. It's really important, therefore, that we allow this consultation to take place and that we proceed with that 7-week consultation. And as Councillor Hinchcliffe rightly points out, we encourage as best as possible participation from parents, carers and pupils, not just for those that have access to a school bus now, but for any school in the region, and indeed, as pointed out by Councillor Douglas, for cross-border services as well, so we make sure we have real reach in terms of the provision of services that we provide. So I would request that members support the recommendation set out in the paper, that we proceed with this consultation, and we will then bring back to the July Combined Authority the results of that process. Thank you, Mayor. Happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. And it was very interesting at the Mayor's question time in Leeds last night. The young people there, whilst at college, not at school, were speaking very articulately about their challenges around bus. So we are now a child first organisation, and the voice of children hopefully will be amplified over the next few years. So I would encourage all leaders and parents and carers to get their youngsters to also feed into this. It's not just about parents, it's about young people telling us what they want to do as well. Because where possible, youngsters should, if they can, wheel or walk or cycle to school, and we'll try and support them to do that. But we also need to know what the current landscape is, because the last consultation was 2015, which seems 2019, which is definitely a whole world away to the world that we are in now. So thank you for that. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, quite right that we're doing the consultation. I probably made the same observations as the previous one, making sure the language is right, particularly that this is aimed at young people. We need to be talking a language that makes sense to them. Can you just clarify, is there an objective to save money? Not implicit in the paper, there's talk about the funding, and then my other question is just around some reassurance for our sort of more rural communities, and also about cross-border issues that you talked about, that we are reaching, as with the previous consultation, into North Yorkshire, South Yorkshire, etc., because there are lots of our residents and children who go to school outside of the district, and vice versa, people that come in, and to make sure we've captured their settings as well, so it's not just the parents. So just some reassurance about that, please.
Yeah, certainly. So to take the first point, so there isn't any predetermined objective to save money through this process. The paper sets out the budget implications as we see them today, but to my earlier point, the way in which services are funded in terms of a mixture of funding from the Combined Authority, districts, and indeed school contributions too, is quite varied at this point in time, and we want to take a holistic view as to the way that funding is both provided but is also then sustainable into the future, particularly as part of that transition into bus franchising as well. So that's a really important component of this exercise. In terms of reach and engagement, absolutely, we're preparing a brochure, and that brochure is going to be written in such a way that it is written for both parents and for pupils. We want to do direct engagement with schools and head teachers to make sure that they encourage their pupils and parents to participate as well. And we want to do that as well across all parts of the region, almost irrespective of geography and place, because again, the very needs of parents and pupils and schools vary by their very nature, don't they, from location to location. So we want to make sure that there is genuine far-reaching engagement in this, including those cross-border movements that you described too.
Thank you. Any further comments? Super, thank you. So are we happy to approve the commencement of the consultation, which concludes on the 11th of June 2025, and that members note that their responses and recommendations of the consultation will be brought back to us here at the Combined Authority July 2025. Happy to approve. Super. Thank you all so much. Okay, moving on to item 8, Bradford City Village. Can I remind members that appendices 1 and 2 are exempt? We'll go into private session after the paper has been introduced to discuss their contents. I'm delighted, absolutely delighted to see the progress of this major housing initiative within Bradford City Centre. If you haven't been to Bradford City Centre recently, I urge you to go. It looks amazing. The Combined Authority has supported Bradford Council's ambitious regeneration plans over a number of years through investment in major projects such as One City Park, Darley Street Market, and through the Transforming Cities Fund. If this strategic investment is approved in principle today, this will be an important step in the creation of a green, healthy, and community-friendly city centre neighbourhood. This supports our place-making agenda, as well as providing much-needed new homes for our communities. May I also mention that there's an error in the agenda, which is Councillor Hinchcliffe named as the lead member, but that's incorrect. This item will be led by Councillor Jeffrey as chair of the Place Committee. So if I could turn first to Councillor Jeffrey and then to Liz Hunter to take us through. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, you're right. This is what this is all about. It's absolutely brilliant news for Bradford. Take a bow, Susan. This is a proposed project approval under Investment Priority 3. The Bradford City Village project is a transformational and housing-led regeneration programme within central Bradford and a named priority with the local growth plan, as well as our strategic place partnership and Homes England. For consideration today is the approval at outline business case for both phases 1 and 2 on land currently owned by Bradford Council, and these phases will deliver the first 270 homes of a 900 housing scheme. Phase 1 will include 96 townhouses to be owned by a registered provider and made available for affordable rent and shared ownership. Phase 2 will include 174 market rent apartments. These projects are at an early stage of design and are subject to planning consent. Approval today will support the recently announced £29.3 million from Homes England for an upfront infrastructure delivery ahead of the housing development. Approval of a future full business case for Phase 1 is requested to be delegated to the Chief Executive with an indicative funding of up to 13.1 million from the Brownfield Housing Fund. Details in relation to Phase 2 are contained within the exempt appendices. I'll hand over to Liz for anything else.
Thank you. You've both articulated really well what the scheme is trying to do, and just to add, it is one of our spatial priority areas. It's in our local growth plan. We recognise it as one of our key priorities. And as you rightly said, this is about housing, but it's housing in the context of a new, improved Bradford city centre, very much linked to the transport projects which are already in play, but also very much linked to what's going to come forward with future transport development. And we also see this as a catalyst for the future regeneration of the city centre, linking into future plans for the Southern Gateway. So hopefully this is the first step towards further conversations about this project. You've already mentioned in terms of the ask for today, in terms of the recommendations. So just to be also clear that we're not seeking any further asks about phases beyond 1 and 2 at this stage. So just wanted to be clear on that. And then happy to go into the private session to answer any of the detailed questions on the annexes.
Thank you so much. And if the Bradford 2025 messaging be bold, be Bradford, I think this is also an example of our belief in Bradford, and hopefully these homes will also be really lovely and will build that neighbourhood in the heart of the city centre for the community to live in, next to the tram and the brand new station. So we have big ambitions. Susan, would you like to comment?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jeffries, for that. Yeah, we're really pleased to see this investment coming in. This is, with everything going on in Bradford, there's more investment going in Bradford now than there has been for decades, and you can really see the difference it's making. And obviously, what the plans we've got in place now are over years, decades into the future. But you can see all the housing that's going to be built here, and the artistic images are fantastic, and people can really start to see how that works. And then with the new through station, mass transit leads Bradford and across the West Yorkshire, you can really see that in the future Bradford's going to be a great place to live, work and invest. And it's this level of regeneration that, you know, mayoral devolution and a good relationship with government gives us, and it's great to see it coming together. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jeffries, for all the work you're doing to make sure that Bradford thrives. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. Okie doke, would anybody like to discuss the exempt appendices? Super, thank you. So there is no, I'm so sorry, Councillor Lamb, you would. Okay.
I have questions.
Oh, a question, but not on the appendices. Very well, thank you. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, so no, my comments are broad, so I'm not straying into the details in the appendix. So whether the answers need that, I don't know, but I think the aim and objective here is laudable and absolutely something that I'm sure everybody can support. My concerns are twofold, I guess. One, to be frank, the record of Bradford of delivering big projects like this is not very good. there's been a lot of holes in the ground in Bradford for a long time, and balanced against that is that there's an awful lot of unanswered questions in the paper from the briefings I've had, and the level of risk within this and the amount of money. I don't think it would be responsible today to make the decision and commit the level of funding that we are without actually answering those questions of detail and how we mitigate the risk. I think there should be a full master plan for the project, and I just feel there needs to be more. I want to support it, absolutely want to support it, but I think there is too much risk that hasn't been set out how that's going to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. I would say regarding delivery and holes in the ground, that's the past. There's a new sheriff in town, Councillor Lamb, and there are no holes in the ground that are not going to be filled in Bradford. So let's go to a private session and we can... I'm so sorry. Oh, yes, please, Councillor Hinchcliffe.
So I have to say, you know, this is why it's so important to get Conservatives out of government nationally, because they just talk down the nation and our cities and our towns and villages. This is private sector investment that's coming in, and you're talking us out of private sector investment. Why would you want to do that? So we have to, as leaders, we have to believe in our places. We have to invest alongside the private sector who want to invest in our places. So I find to go into private session, but I just felt it was important to say that as a Labour leader of Bradford, with a Labour government and a Labour mayor, we are making a difference in this country. We are going to grow the economy for the many and not for the few, and not talk ourselves into decline. So I just thought it was important to come back on that point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Lamb.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll resist the urge to go into a political debate, because generally speaking, we don't do that. I hope you'll perhaps call out your colleague for doing that, Mayor, because it's not the place for it. We're all sat here. We're all sat here to. Sorry, is it okay
I think, Councillor Lamb, the issue is we were celebrating something that is amazing for Bradford, and the positivity that was surrounding it, and it did feel that it was undermining the opportunity. So I do see how the leader of Bradford might feel exercised to express her opinion. But please continue.
Thank you, Mayor, and I hope you'd agree. It's our role here to speak on behalf of all taxpayers, all residents, and the reason I believe the way I set out the point was I want to support this scheme. I want it to be delivered. I certainly wasn't talking Bradford or anybody down in that way. What I'm concerned about is that if we don't have a robust scheme and a robust plan and robust figures and numbers, it won't be delivered. And that's the concerns I'm raising. I haven't once said this is a bad thing or we shouldn't do it. What I've said is we should take our time and make sure it's done right, because you say the past is behind us, but we should learn from it.
Thank you. And Ben can answer some to your question without going into private session. So I'm hoping that this will reassure you. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, that's on the basis, members, that nobody else has got other questions that might take us into private session. So, but my response, Councillor Lamb, to your comment about further and detailed consideration is that the project is still to go through that stage. So what's in front of you today is as the paper sets out pretty clearly, an in principle decision that is still subject to further CA confirmation later in the year. So the full business case work will proceed, and we'll obviously have to answer all of the questions and assess the risks in the way that in the way that you've set out. So I think it is about, this is an early stage approval, but what this approval does is it unlocks investment from Homes England, so that the work on that business case can continue as well. So it keeps the progress being made on the overall project.
And the last thing we want is the momentum to be stalled by process, because the last thing we want is holes in the ground. Councillor Hinchcliffe.
Just for everybody on the committee, this is private sector money that's coming in that the public is investing alongside it. This is a private sector believing in the regeneration story that Bradford's actually ploughing for itself at the moment, and this is a private sector delivering. We should never say no to private sector investment in a place.
Thank you. Mandy.
Hi, I'm a resident of Bradford and also have a business in Bradford, and I think it's fantastic to see the change in Bradford that's happened recently. I don't know if anyone has been, but as Tracy said, the Mayor said earlier, it's well worth going to Bradford to see the regeneration that's there. Whilst we're talking about the opportunity, I think the opportunity for our West Yorkshire businesses to get involved in this development down the line is something that we should dial into that thinking, because not only does this give the opportunity to provide homes, it also provides jobs and it provides work for our businesses, which I think we need to note into the work that we do if this goes through.
Thank you so much. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Jeffrey.
This has been discussed fully at my committee, and officers have worked hard on this project. And this is what we're all about, is getting investment into our towns and cities. And private sector wouldn't be coming forward with this funding if they hadn't got confidence in what we were doing and moving forward. So I really feel that this is a great step forward for Bradford, but from the committee that I chair, there was great support of it for Homes England. Everybody wants this to work and succeed, and I really urge everyone to support this.
Thank you so much. And of course, every project has our rigorous assurance process that goes through that maybe, I wonder, Liz, if you could talk us through maybe next steps to give the council some reassurance.
Sure, thank you. Some really good questions, and ones that we are asking ourselves and are working with Bradford to work through. So there's a difference between the kind of phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1, as set out in the paper, we will, if you're comfortable today, we will proceed to full business case. So again, this is the full business case will be subject to further assurance and scrutiny internally. Phase 1 is in a more usual approach that we've had with brownfield housing funding and plugs the viability gap. So yes, outline business case today, but then we will do further work on the full business case. I think rightly there's a number of questions still about phase 2, and we're clear, without going into too much detail about the exempt annexes, we're clear that there are a set of choices still about phase 2. And so again, very, very much this is in principle to allow us to continue to work on phase 2, again, to develop answers to a lot of the questions, particularly on the finances, and we'll bring that back for a CA decision. So hopefully that helps reassure that at the moment we don't have all the answers because we're at this stage of the work, but we recognise the need to carry on to do that work if you're comfortable approving what we have in front of you today.
Thank you so much. Any further comments? Thank you. I think it's an incredibly exciting opportunity, and as Councillor Hinchcliffe said, we strive to be in a more sufficient world where we can work public and private in collaboration to get these really ambitious, fabulous projects up and away. And whilst it's coming up on the agenda later, UK Reef, thousands of people coming to our region, seeing our brilliant region and wanting to invest in our communities is only a good thing. So are we happy to approve and agree the recommendations set out in the paper? Thank you. Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, if I can just record an abstention for the reasons that I absolutely hope it's delivered and is successful, but I just have some reservations at this point.
Thank you. Well, hopefully your reservations at the next phase will, you will be reassured. Okay, thank you. So moving on. That was a good day for Bradford and lots to celebrate there. To moving to the next step. Okay, moving on to item 9, the Draft Climate and Environment Plan 2025 to 38. We are being asked to approve this new plan. Before I start this discussion, can I emphasise that the benefits of acting on the climate emergency and delivering this new plan will go far beyond reducing carbon emissions. Reaching net zero by 2038 will unlock opportunities to create those well-paid jobs and improve energy efficiency of homes and businesses, bring down bills, tackle health inequality, improve public transport, and reverse the decline of nature and biodiversity. We've got 13 years to get our net zero carbon target, and only by working in close partnership with our region's businesses, institutions and communities can we deliver it. Now, I really acknowledge it is a challenging and stretching target. I'm in no doubt about the task we face to meet our ambitions, but I know the work we're doing on transport and housing retrofit in particular, we are rising to that challenge. If I may ask Councillor Patient to introduce the plan before passing on to Liz Hunter to talk us through the recommendations. Thank you, Councillor Patient.
Thank you, Mayor. And everyone in the room, this new plan outlines the approach for acting on the climate emergency that the Combined Authority will take for our ambitious IPCC-approved 2038 target, as well as setting out some of the activity that's going to be prioritised over the next 4 years. So the plan's been developed following consistent engagement with West Yorkshire's local authorities, as well as the Climate, Energy, Environment Committee. I know too, having chaired a number of the climate conversations, that young people, the voluntary sector and voices all across West Yorkshire have helped inform this plan as well. The plan does seek to establish a compelling case for action delivered through a long-term structure which is aligned with the West Yorkshire Plan and other key strategies. And just reading from the local growth plan as well, that has been praised, especially in ecology and nature areas. So just a quote from there saying, "We must drive a just transition to net zero by 2038, access to services, warm homes and sustainable transport." And our local growth plan has already been praised, as I said, for its focus on nature restoration and climate. So the plan and it sets objectives and actions in energy, transport, housing, climate resilience and in nature recovery, as well as business decarbonisation and green skills. And as the Mayor said, it's focused on the co-benefits of taking action as well as the emission reductions themselves. So the Climate, Environment and Energy Committee recently reviewed the draft plan, which back in March, and agreed it is a strong and well-rounded document which responds to the challenges and opportunities in tackling the climate emergency across the whole of West Yorkshire. A special final thanks to our Combined Authority scrutiny members who also fed into the development of the plan and have been supportive, as well as making some helpful comments that help inform that work. Thank you, Mayor, and hand over to Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you very much, and if I may add my thanks to everybody involved in the creation of the plan. It has been a joint effort, and as you say, both the committee and scrutiny members have been involved in the workshops that we ran earlier this year. So hopefully it does address the challenge, as you say, Mayor. It's a significant challenge that we have in front of us, but with significant benefits, as you rightly say, beyond just our approach to carbon reduction, on our wider environmental aspects, but also for health, for jobs, for skills, etc. I think there's a real exciting opportunity for us to be at the forefront of that, and hopefully that does this. You'll notice that alongside the plan there's a raft of supporting documents. So we also included in that is our new carbon pathways work, which sets now a single trajectory to get us to 2038, and our plan is based on that. But that pathway work is very much about then how we how other partners need to play into getting us there. So just to be clear, our plan is based on that pathway, but the pathway is wider than what we can do ourselves. Also to add that if you're comfortable with adopting this today, there's a lot of work to go to do next. We'll be embedding this in our business plans. It will be the same evidence base for the local transport plan, so great to see that being talked about today. So we very much see the work of the plan and the evidence base being part then of the strategies that will come forward, and also we will be developing the business cases that are required to bring forward individual aspects of the plan, and you'll see that Home Energy West Yorkshire is on the agenda for later as one of our key areas of focus. So there's a lot there, so happy to take any questions, and may I say that the recommendation talks about the adoption of the plan. Obviously, if any members have any comments today, that if, depending on the substance of those, that we may be able to delegate that to the Chief Exec in conversation with yourself, Mayor, if there are changes to the document following today's discussion. I'll hand back.
Thank you so much. And like you say, it is ambitious. I recently had a truncated version of the carbon literacy training. It was really, really good, and I would recommend it to members. Liz, is it available to people outside of our organisation? Is it available to members?
Thank you. It's a good question. So just for members' benefit, we've been there is a carbon literacy training programme that the local government association have been running, which many of other colleagues may already have been on. We have, with colleagues internally, taken that and adapted it for our own internal use. So we've had colleagues who've developed the training, and we've rolled it out to a number of colleagues within the organisation. And as you say, we then did a shortened version for you, Mayor. So I'm happy to, if members want to have that shortened version, we can put something in to enable that to happen. It might be that you've already had things actually through other mechanisms. And then in terms of external training, we haven't rolled that out externally at the moment because it was very much focused internally. But I think as part of the next stages of the plan, how we communicate, engage with, kind of work with other organisations, communities, etc., to try and get the message out there is something that we will be looking at. Whether that's training or something else, we've yet to work through.
Thank you so much. Councillor Patient.
Thank you, and just to echo Lizzie's comments and yours as well about the benefits of carbon literacy training, it's probably something that everyone should do, and actually a lot of these organisations do a train the trainer kind of progress, so then it can cascade out. I've got to say, from a personal point of view, for decades banging on about climate and environment from a personal capacity, it's really cheering to be on the inside and seeing how these things develop and how you can do it whilst bearing in mind a just transition that benefits everyone. That's the key part in this, the element of climate justice, and something we should absolutely never forget about. So I do think making sure some of these trainings are in place, making sure the understanding is there. And the mantra from the climate environment lobby is always tell us about it. So the key thing throughout all of this journey is going to be our messaging, how we cascade that out, how we use our key partners in all of this to tell the story of climate in West Yorkshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Anderson.
Echo the comments that Councillor made earlier on about the involvement of scrutiny. I think what this proved, this exercise, is all parts of WICA work together in lockstep. Yes, there were challenges along the way, and yes, there were queries raised, but what I would say just is the difficult work is just about to begin. How you're going to prioritise what you start with. You start off with transport, or you start off with the housing side of things. You know, that's going to be difficult. And there will undoubtedly be, despite assurances from Noel, I think there will be some conflicts in some of the policies. If we move some of them too quickly, will another part of the policy be able to bring these people up at the same speed? Because there are, at the moment, we're going to concentrate on franchising and mass transit, but there are other issues on the transport thing that could even hold us back. And the other thing that I have concerns about is that most of the local authorities have got a target of 2030, and it's how they're going to use this plan as a way of achieving their 2030 targets, because investments are obviously going to happen post 2030. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But it's been a great exercise. Everybody's worked well together, and as Councillor Patient said, you know, it shows the benefit of people working together. But those are the two concerns scrutiny still has.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And of course, there's no perfect world where we know exactly what we're going to be doing. I mean, who knew COVID was going to happen and so on? So I think we will potentially make some mistakes. Let's be kind to ourselves. But rest assured, our commitment to net zero by 2038 is clear. And we'll do everything within our gift to try and get to that point. Councillor Love.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, please, for Liz. In figure 7, which is the plan of the pathway, is aviation included within the transport, or have we just cut aviation out completely from the process?
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. It's a good question. So we haven't included in the pathway because of our ability to kind of influence that, but we still recognise aviation. So we have we do talk about it in the plan, and obviously there's a role that the Mayor can play in terms of working with government to think about what the pathway needs to be for aviation nationally. So that's the position we're in at the moment. So it's not included in the numbers, but it is certainly something that we recognise there's an influencing role that we can try and play.
Please,
If I
come
may
back.
just
Yes, of
follow
course.
up. So we're looking at being net zero by 2038, except for aviation. We're not including that at all. In
Councillor Love, we understand the challenge around aviation and working with Leeds Bradford Airport on their ambitions, and they share some of our ambitions to reduce their own emissions going forward, particularly around their terminal, which is net zero. They are investing 200 million and also working with government on greater sustainability around fuel. I'm looking forward to investment potentially around the airport where we can be, one of the first adopters in that space. But of course, it's always complex, isn't it? We are a region that has international students. We want to bring in international investment. We are ambitious for our positioning across the world. And also what we don't want is people to feel that it's great for West Yorkshire that everybody travels to Manchester to fly rather than flying in West Yorkshire. So it is a balancing act, and I appreciate the focus that you've always had on the airport. I think my position has been clear. We've had a number of conversations, haven't we? But within this plan, it is what is in my control. What can we actually deliver? And that government have a strategic plan for aviation that is outside of our gift. Thank you. Ben.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a further comment on Councillor Anderson's question. Although in so doing, I'm nervous about giving an answer that sounds like officer speak in relation to Councillor Lamb's earlier comment. But I think you raise a very, very pertinent point, and it's something that we are considering as we work towards the integrated settlement decision-making framework that we're hoping to secure with the government over the coming year. What that will do is include an outcome framework, officer speak, apologies, that kind of sets out those carbon objectives versus economic growth and inclusivity objectives, so that members can make those trade-offs in the decisions in relation to the single settlement and the single funding pot. So you'll see that come forward in future proposals to the combined authority.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mandy.
Thanks, and I think it would be remiss of me not to comment on aviation and aerospace as I work in that industry. I think there's a number of things, the actual flights and the airport itself. The airport itself has got a strategy to be net zero in line with our plans and has reduced its carbon footprint by, I think, almost 50% in the last 6 years, and the future development is working with that. If we look at Jet2, who are an operator in our region, they have a plan to net zero by 2050. As KLM are there, as are Ryanair, who are all working on the same thing. Aerospace is a global industry, and the solution will be a global solution. But it is a solution that's being worked at pace. So I hope that gives you some comfort.
Thank you. Super. Thank you for that. I didn't know those numbers, so thank you. That's interesting. So are we happy to adopt the plan? We are? Good. Thank you so much. Moving on to item 10, Biodiversity Net Gain Responsible Body Service. The proposed responsible body service will assist Bradford, Calderdale, Kirklees and Wakefield districts in delivering biodiversity improvements on land within their ownership. We are about to become the responsible body. Can I ask Councillor Patient to introduce the report, please, and then pass over to Liz?
Thank you, Mayor. So we all know that wildlife in England is absolutely under threat, and national surveys continue to show biodiversity declines, and we've heard about that with bees and butterflies and various things. And as my wife was saying the other week around the idea that you don't see any bugs splattered on the windscreen, but that's perhaps a bit more of a visceral image than we want. The headline of the most recent National State of Nature report back in 23 was that 1 in 6 UK species are threatened with extinction. And according to the State of Nature report from last year, nearly 2,000 species may have disappeared over the last 200 years, with nearly 1 in 5 declining to 25% in the last 20 to 30 years. So this proposed biodiversity net gain responsible body service outlined in this report aligns with national and regional policy priorities, including the West Yorkshire Climate and Environment Plan that we've just discussed, and emerging local nature recovery strategy. That's a brilliant piece of work as well. Both strategies aim to support the restoration of habitats and support the transition to a climate resilient region. And the service will support districts in accelerating delivery of nature enhancement in their local areas, be that wetlands, be that spaces through SSIs or existing areas that are under local government control. So I'll hand over to Liz to talk about the rest of it.
Thank you. And yes, a prompt for the local nature recovery strategy there, which will be coming the CA's way later in the year, which again is another one of those documents which will support the climate and environment plan that you've just adopted. So thank you for that. As the paper talks through, this is quite a kind of technical role that we are taking on, if subject to your views and subject to DEFRA granting us the status as a responsible body. It tries to remove the conflict where a planning authority is also the authority that owns the land on which a developer is going to spend their biodiversity credits. So hopefully making it a more attractive place to come is one of our goals and objectives for creating this. So ideally developers should be putting back biodiversity on their own development land, but if they're not and they go through planning and they have to, they're given credits to spend elsewhere, then ideally we want them to spend those credits in West Yorkshire. So this is an attempt to try and make that as easy as possible. We are still waiting to hear from DEFRA as to whether we'll be granted this status as a responsible body, but hopefully if you're happy to adopt this today, and then once that comes through we can be up and running. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a sensible approach, and hopefully I'll explain myself in a way that doesn't lead to me getting shot down. But it just seems to me it's a shame if we can't find a way that it's the whole of West Yorkshire working together. And I fully understand where Leeds is at and why it's there. But I just wonder if there's a way we can sort of bring the whole 5 authorities together on this one. And the other point is the last point Liz made, which is a real concern about this, that the absolute default hardwired into this is that the BNG should be delivered on site wherever possible, and then it should be delivered as close to the site as possible, and only as an absolute last resort, if it means you can't deliver, is it sort of somewhere else entirely. And it's just really getting those principles in and making sure we don't create something that isn't almost competitive to try and get people to put the contributions in. If you understand what I'm trying to say, that it's the key thing is it should be on site first and almost always, and then as close as possible, if not.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, and yeah, obviously fully support the second point. Just on your first point about Leeds, so Leeds have, as the paper says, set up a special purpose vehicle to be able to do this, which is their way of reducing the conflict that I mentioned between being the planning authority and the owner of the land. They did that at speed because they have a number of developments coming forward and kind of carried on. It was the other local authorities who then approached us to say, can you help us with this for a number of reasons? So we are doing it on behalf of the other 4. Just to reassure you, we are working with Leeds colleagues and trying as far as possible to kind of think about our approach to developers so that it's as easy as possible in terms of navigation. But that's kind of where we are.
Thank you, Councillor Patient.
Thank you, and just to add to Liz's reassurance, it might seem disjointed at first thing, but actually our BNG officers in our locales are supportive of the approach. I do think you're right in terms of, obviously the best will in the world would be to deliver BNG on site, but what we need to make sure in that instance is that it's not tokenistic and that it's done properly. So actually the amount of monitoring and engagement that's going to be done, which this actual paper allows us to think a little bit more, is people with the best will in the world could put a wildflower meadow or some trees there, but if they're not there in 5 years' time, then they cease to do the work that's needed to be done. So actually this paper does try and solve some of those issues, and as I said, our locality BNG officers are supportive and how that works within planning enforcement in our own spaces too.
Thank you so much. Okie doke. We're happy to approve The authority acting as biodiversity net gain responsible body for Bradford, Calderdale, Kirklees and Wakefield, and that we will have a temporary use of 125,000 gain share funding, which will be repayable from admin fees collected as set out in section 8. Happy to approve? Lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on. Item 11, warm homes. This paper supports the continued delivery of social housing retrofit and decarbonisation across West Yorkshire through the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund and Gain Share. And it is back to you, Councillor Patient.
Thank you, members, and everyone here. And sorry, this is my last item, I can assure you. So the need to retrofit homes is even greater and more challenging in West Yorkshire than nationally, and given the prevalence of both fuel poverty, which is at 27% of residents are living in fuel poverty, the second highest level in the country, and of the very old homes and estates that we have, specifically those pre-19 homes, which represent 23% of dwellings compared to 19% nationally, which are much harder to retrofit. And we're trying to square some of that circle with some of the retrofit demonstrator work that we're doing across our locale. So the Warm Home Social Housing Fund is a continuation of the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund to deliver retrofit measures, provide low carbon, energy efficient and warm homes for residents of West Yorkshire. The Mayor's declared as part of her 7 pledges to begin a programme to insulate every social home in West Yorkshire, and this is a key strategy to reduce domestic housing carbon emissions and alleviate fuel poverty, working hand in hand with obviously owner-occupiers who can afford to do some of that work themselves in the private sector too. WICA continues to lead a consortium of social housing registered providers encompassing all 5 district partners across West Yorkshire, and the Combined Authority submitted an ambitious funding bid for Warm Homes Social Housing Fund Wave 3, where nearly 9,000 social homes across West Yorkshire would potentially benefit from this intervention. And the ambition remains, yet this report sets out how through a reprofiled approach they'll continue to drive delivery across the sector. Really welcome this page and pass over to Liz for more.
Thank you so much. So as Councillor Patient just ended there in terms of our bids, if I can start with an update on that, because this paper is focused on releasing hopefully the money from government, and then also what we as a combined authority can do to support. So as Councillor Patient said, we put in what we thought was a strong bid to government for Warm Homes funding for just short of 9,000 homes. We have had confirmation from government that we'll have 40% of that funding. And over the last couple of weeks, since this paper has been written, the team have been looking at how we can reprofile that. I'm pleased to say that they've managed, working with our housing providers, that they're hoping to achieve just over 5,000 homes, which is actually 57% of the homes that we hope to do. So we've managed to find a way of using the money to enable us to do more homes than we might otherwise have done, which is, I think, is good news. That does leave us, though, with a gap from where we wanted to be. And subject to your agreement today, we still want to maintain that ambition because we think it's an important part of our climate environment plan, as we've just been talking about, but also for those wider benefits that Councillor Patient mentioned, and ensuring that people can live in a warm home. So what we're looking for today is to release the government money when it arrives. We've got a short turnaround time to be able to enter into agreements with government when they've given us their approval, and also to then use funding that is at your discretion to continue to support that level of ambition in terms of retrofitting homes. But also, as the paper sets out, there are a number of barriers and challenges that the housing providers are currently facing in terms of being able to do this at a pace that we would like to be able to do. The 2 main barriers are around understanding the housing stock. So it's only when often you can go into houses that you actually understand better what needs to happen. So one of the things that we are proposing to do is more upfront house surveys so that we have a better understanding of what's needed in each home, so that we can be more efficient in terms of our use of funding, but also put together relevant bids for the future. And also, as the paper describes, we have had a number of refusals from tenants. So even though this is kind of free to them, there's lots of reasons why they might not want the disruption in their home. They're nervous about it. So one of the things that we're also looking to do is put in more ability for there to be resident engagement officers to enable some of that work to happen. So, like I say, this paper is trying to maintain the level of ambition. If you can give us the flexibility to do that, we'll go away and look at how we can use our funding to do so and to hopefully overcome some of those barriers. And just to say, obviously, this paper is very much focused on social housing, but as Councillor Patient and Mayor, you've mentioned, we've clearly got an ambition for all, and there'll be further reports coming to you about what we're trying to do for homeowners, the private rented sector. And for example, just to give you an update, you all signed off our one-stop shop at a previous meeting, and we're just concluding the procurement of that. So hopefully we'll have news on that for later this year. So just to say that this is part of the story, it's not all of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the scale is massive. You know, it's hundreds of thousands of social homes. And whilst 5,000 sounds like a lot, it's the pipeline of skills that we need as well, that sort of persuasion with communities that this is a good thing. It's not going to be straightforward, I don't think, but our ambition is solid, so we're on a mission. Councillor Patient.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add to the idea of this not happening in a vacuum, and the other projects that exist alongside, like the solar collective buy-in scheme that we're running, and a lot of the other retrofit work. Just a quick reflection back from the ranch in Calderdale in terms of the demonstrated project work that we've been doing. I think you're absolutely right. It's difficult to bring everyone on side with some of this stuff, and the level of engagement that you do with householders is absolutely key. But some of the reflections there have been some of the resident feedback from the engagement team around how that engagement has worked. That's worked really, really well. So I don't know if there's lessons to be learned from the team in Calderdale and Richard and the team that have been leading on that. But absolutely right. Challenges with misinformation out there about what it looks like. Challenges with living in the home and doing the retrofit while you're in there. But absolutely reassured that this paper hopes to alleviate some of those issues.
Thank you. And basically, you've got cheaper bills. That's the message that we should also be getting out there, that your energy bills will be lower. Okie doke. Any comments? Yes, Councillor Anderson.
Properties, which there are a lot. How's the scheme got flexibility in it that decisions can be made without making it a bureaucratic nightmare, so that someone's got the flexibility to say, right, okay, we maybe want to spend X amount normally in a house, but in this one we need to put X plus 20% because of specific needs. Is that flexibility built into it? And then on the other thing, once it's been installed, certainly in my area, which has benefited from the council investing in it, it's following up year after year to remind people how to use their heating effectively. We put the investment in, and the next thing we know is we've got people covering the heaters, etc., and it causes problems. So there needs to be a follow-up mechanism of keeping people informed, or when you get a new tenant in, does somebody sit down and explain with the new tenant how to do it? So just observation, it's not criticism, totally behind it.
Thank you, Councillor. Liz?
Thank you. Yeah, really good points. And I think the resident engagement piece, I'll feed that in actually, about it's not just the upfront conversation, but it's the continued conversation. Because again, we've had similarly had some of that feedback given as well about people kind of opening windows and whatnot, which again, so learning how to use a system and then maintaining it, particularly if tenants change, is a really good point. So thank you for that. In terms of flexibility, there's greater flexibility we have with our own funding. We are still working with government to persuade them to give us greater flexibility, let's say, on some of their warm homes funding, and devolution will hopefully enable us, if it goes into a single settlement, to have greater flex than we've had before. But part of the challenge has been, as you say, until you go in, hence the home surveys piece, until you go in, you don't always know what's going to be needed. And that has, in the past, meant that we've had to go back through kind of change control processes with government. So that hopefully will also mitigate some of that risk. Thanks.
Thank you. Okie dokie. Are we happy to approve? We are. Brilliant. Moving on. Thank you so much. Going on to item 12, the Adult Skills Fund Region of Learning and Creativity update. This is part of my ambition to ensure West Yorkshire is a region of learning and creativity. And there are some changes that we need to make because of the Department of Education's decision on the Adult Skills Fund and other eligibility criteria for the next academic year. Now, creating a region of learning and creativity is firmly anchored in my manifesto and in our West Yorkshire Growth Plan, and a significant amount of work is underway to address our region's skills challenges and unlock inclusive economic growth by connecting all of our residents at all stages of their careers to new opportunities. Could I ask Councillor Lewis, as Chair of the Economy Committee, and then Felix Kumion-Pofo, our Director of Inclusive Economy, Skills and Culture, to take us through the report and recommendations. Councillor Lewis.
Thanks, Joe. Shall we just go straight to Felix, please?
Super duper. Felix.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, this paper sets out, gives the board an update on where we are in adult skills, particularly around the region of learning and creativity, which is a key part of the local growth plan. Members know, and we set out in the local growth plan, the challenge and also the opportunity that we have when it comes to adult skills in particular, but all around the education and skills agenda, and how crucial that is to us achieving and delivering the objectives and the goals we set out in the local growth plan. We have about 12% of our working age population with no or very low qualifications, not even enough for entry-level jobs. At the same time, at the higher or other end of the qualification spectrum, we do not have enough of our working age population highly qualified at that level, and in particular in Bradford and in Wakefield, this is really acute. This affects, as I'm sure you know, participation, especially of our young people in the labour market, and without addressing this, we will not be able to meet any of our goals. So, the Adult Skills Fund, previously called the Adult Education Budget, has been deployed with full devolution, and this board has been responsible for that, and we've reported some really impressive numbers over the last few years. In section 3.3 of the report, we summarize a few of those. I will not go into the detail. But in response to that challenge that I set out earlier on, the mayor then recognized this, and since that went in the manifesto and the work that went into the local growth plan, a number of activities have been kicked off, and we summarize that in section 3.5 of the report. So again, I will not go into a lot of detail. So as our remit is growing, at the same time, we have some financial constraints. So the paper sets out from section 3.6 onwards that our funding, our budget has been cut by 3.3% for the next academic year. This equates to about £2.4 million. And if you consider the fact that prior to this, we were already making the case to government that we do not have enough funding, then this presents a particular challenge for us. So it's important to note that. I'll come back to that point later on. As the mayor said, at the same time as we do have the challenge and the opportunity, we're responding to that. We have a funding cut, but in addition to that, there are a couple of changes that the Department for Education is asking us to make. One of which is there's a fund we have called Free Courses for Jobs. We use it to support people to get level 3 qualifications, mainly people who are 24 years and above. The DFE is asking that we change that. We increase eligibility to 19 years plus. We are fully supportive of this, but obviously that means there are more people to support with less money. At the same time, there's some changes being brought in around eligibility for people, residency eligibility, and to reduce barriers. And again, we've already been supportive of that, and we've been doing that with some of the powers we have. This will bring us and the DFE fully in line. So we are supportive of the changes. There are implications to those changes, though, and in particular, it's around tailored learning, which we used to refer to as community learning. It's a lot of family learning. It's really important for social cohesion. Usually it's the first step on the ladder for people to then get into any formal training, qualifications that they need. There's a need for us now to increase their allocation by a further 10% to be in line with where the DFE is saying we should be and where the market is saying we should be to make this viable for our providers. And that is why that is the decision that we are asking you to consider, and if you are minded to make, to enable us to provide this for our communities. I'll stop there. There's a lot more in the papers, but if there are any questions or comments, happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Felix. And these interventions are so important and chime with our ambitions to grow our economy. And the only way to grow the economy is to upskill our workforce as well and give them those opportunities. Okie doke. Any comments on this paper? Super. Are we happy to endorse the exceptional adult skills investment proposals for 2025-26 and to approve the 10% increase to tailored learning allocations proposed as part of the adult skills investment plan for the academic year 25-26? We are? Super. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Felix. Moving on to item 13, West Yorkshire at UK Reef. An update on the West Yorkshire presence at UK Reef 25, the National Real Estate Investment and Infrastructure Conference held here in West Yorkshire in May. No better way to raise the profile of investment and development opportunities than welcoming 16,000 people to our own backyard. Significant partnership working is ongoing year round to make this a productive and memorable week. A week where our growth opportunities are in the spotlight with investors, developers, decision makers, and opinion formers. It's a great week for us here in West Yorkshire. Can I come back to you, Felix, to take us through the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So UK Reef returns this May to West Yorkshire to lead the Royal Armouries. And this year, this paper just sets out what we are looking to do this year. We will, after this meeting, send round the latest, where we are with the draft program for the West Yorkshire Pavilion, so everybody has that information. Just bear in mind these things are changing as we go, so it might not be the final version, but we'll share that. Our program this year, our approach this year is firmly anchored in the local growth plan. You remember in the local growth plan, we set out our growth corridors and key investment opportunities. Our UK Reef narrative and our proposition to the market this year is firmly anchored in that. So we are focusing on the key growth opportunities on each of the three corridors. We are focusing on our transport story, in particular, and the investment there, and also strong focus in our employment sites and our housing sites. The good news to share is that not only have we had UK Reef here in the world coming to us for the last few years, we have confirmation that it will be returning to Leeds next year as well. So we're already starting to think about how we want to position West Yorkshire next year. Conversations about the years after that will take place in subsequent months. So this paper hopefully provides you reassurance on what we are doing for this year and the themes that we'll be putting forward in the West Yorkshire Pavilion, and also the role that we'll be playing on the bigger platforms, taking the West Yorkshire story to the rest of the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felix. And certainly with so many opportunities to invest in West Yorkshire, our pavilion will definitely be where the movers and shakers are. So if you haven't got your ticket, you're going to miss out. So I hope you will join us to really amplify all the great stuff that we've got to offer the private sector as well to invest in, and have great conversations with other leaders. And other mayors across the country are also joining us. All good. So happy just to acknowledge the paper so far. Lovely, thank you. Okay, moving on to project approvals, and I'll come over to you, Simon, and we'll go through them one by one. The first project approval provides details of 3 transport projects recommended to progress through the assurance process, including release of more than 100 million over the next 2 years to fund road maintenance and tackle the blight of potholes. As politicians, we love talking about potholes, so this is a good day when we can allocate a big chunk of money to redress what is a driver's nightmare. The second approval relates to active travel development funding. But firstly, can I ask Simon to take us through the recommendations, please? Simon.
Thank you, Matt. So yeah, as you say, the 3 projects that form part of the CRSTS Highways programme, it's a 5-year funding programme, I'll explain a little bit more about how that funding works for all three projects before we can run through each of the requested approvals for each project in turn. So 3 projects funded through our City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement allocation. Funding has been released on an annual basis under those funding programmes to date. So the approvals that we're recommending today relate to the release of Year 4 funding for 2025-2026 and also delegated approval for Year 5 funding for 2026-2027 subject to conditions. The proposed allocations for all 3 projects have been agreed with the district partners, although delegated authority is requested to amend allocations in response to delivery if required, just to ensure that we can spend within the corresponding financial year. So, taking each of those 3 components in turn, the first is the CRSTS Network Management and Enhancements Programme. So this is seeking to address ageing and obsolete traffic signal equipment across the region. It's a £25.5 million programme over 5 years, for which we are recommending the release of £6.2 million in Year 4 and £3.7 million in Year 5. With a corresponding breakdown between the districts as shown in the papers, which is based on the number of signal installations per district. We're also recommending delegated authority to the Chief Executive to amend allocated funding amounts as released by this decision if required. Do we want to take any questions or decision on that project first?
Any questions on the CRSTS Network Management and Enhancements? Yes, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's a request to go with it. So a bugbear of mine is that the new signal controls have the ability to have speed monitoring, which can be switched on or off. And if someone is speeding, approaching a red light, the red light can be activated. They're, at the moment, as standard, they're switched off. So I wonder if we could make a request that, as part of any funding, the standard would be that anything we funded would be switched on. Because in terms of improving road safety, it's a really quick, easy and cheap win. And it's a constant frustration of mine that it's incredibly difficult to get them to use the technology. And when we're replacing it anyway, it seems to me a no-brainer to help with the Vision Zero strategies and all of that, that we should just insist that that happens.
That's interesting. I hadn't come across that. Simon, we can take that away and just look into it?
Yes, indeed. I'm picking up with the relevant network managers at the moment.
Lovely, thank you for that that knowledge, very detailed knowledge about road traffic signals. We're happy to approve. Lovely, thank you. Thank you, Simon.
So the second project within the programme is the CRSTS Safe Roads programme. So this seeks to reduce collisions through delivery of road safety measures, so things like traffic calming, pedestrian cycle facilities, speed limit reductions and parking management. This is a £25 million programme over 5 years, and we're recommending the release of £4.3 million in Year 4 and £4 million in Year 5. Again, the corresponding breakdown between the districts is shown in the papers. This time that's based on the population size in each district. We're also recommending delegated authority to the Chief Executive to amend those funding amounts if it's deemed necessary in response to delivery. Again, I'll pause there to take any questions and a decision on that.
Thank you. Any comments? No, happy to recommend? Great stuff, thank you.
And the third in this series is the Highways Asset Management Programme, which involves maintenance to bridges, structures, drainage, surfacing, street lighting and, as you rightly point out, Mayor, potholes. This is a £282 million programme over 5 years. In addition to the CRSTS funding, the programme has previously benefited from top-up funding from government in years 2 and 3. And the government indicated the availability of similar top-up funding for 2025-2026 in December in the form of the Local Highways Maintenance Fund, and that was formally announced last month. So this top-up funding, which is worth £14.8 million for West Yorkshire, subject to evidencing the necessary outcomes, is included within the Year 4 allocation that we're seeking approval for. So in summary, we're therefore recommending the release of £65.1 million in Year 4 and £41.5 million in Year 5, again with the corresponding breakdown between the districts shown in the papers, which this time is based on the length of asset in each district.
Thank you, and I'm so pleased government really understand the impact on communities that poor road maintenance has. Are we happy to approve? Lovely, thank you. Moving on, Simon.
Thank you, Matt. So the next is an additional approval which relates to the Consolidated Active Travel Fund pipeline development. So for members' benefits, this is a new funding stream that replaces the previous Active Travel Fund and associated capability funding. Under the previous Active Travel Fund, capability funding was awarded for development of active travel schemes, which were then subsequently entered into a competitive process with Active Travel England in order to secure the funding for delivery. So this new consolidated approach brings together both capital and revenue funding as part of a fixed allocation that removes that competitive element. So this really is in preparation for the approach which will be applicable to wider funding under the integrated settlement in due course. So our allocation for 2025-2026 is £9.9 million of capital and £2.9 million of revenue, from which schemes will need to be committed by March 2026 and delivered in full by March 2027. Just for the avoidance of doubt, this is supplementary to the 2024-2025 Active Travel 5 Tranche 5 funding approval that was granted at February's Combined Authority meeting. So funding can be spent on the construction of new walking and cycling infrastructure, essential maintenance and the development of active travel schemes pipeline. Our recommendation here is that the Combined Authority approves the release of £600,000 of that allocated funding for development to help shape the programme in collaboration with district partners. We're also recommending a delegated authority to the Chief Executive to allocate the funding to the district partners as required.
Thank you, and it's good to see we're getting additional funding because we're able to deliver in this space. So thank you. Any comments? Happy to approve? Lovely, thank you so much. Moving on. Simon.
I think we're passing over to Felix now for the...
Thank you, Felix.
Thank you very much, Mayor. There are two approvals that we're seeking in this section of the papers. As you would know, in the last earlier this year, the members approved our budget. Within that budget was an allocation that was made up of Shared Prosperity Fund from central government and the Combined Authority sole funded by Again Share and others. And within that pot, we've carved out a fund for local authorities to work with voluntary and community sector, which we've called Community Growth and Development Fund. It's about £11 million, and local authorities have developed their own delivery plans speaking to their local stakeholders. These have been submitted to us, and the teams are working through that. The key criteria is for local authority to show how the investment will help deliver the local growth plan and the ambitions of Shared Prosperity Fund, which are quite similar to local growth plan. So there are no issues there. The approval we are seeking is a delegation to our chief exec because we need to move at pace, and it's likely that the paperwork will finish and lie in between the meeting cycle for this for the board. So if you are minded to, we'll work on the paper. We'll do the paperwork, and if you are happy to delegate to the chief exec, then we will work that through. In addition to that, there are a number of programs or projects that we've been funding up till this point using previous funding, which we've deemed well aligned to the local growth plan. So we are proposing in paragraph 3.10 a set of projects that we want to continue. And again, if you are minded to, we'll work through the change request for those to make sure we can approve those in between meeting cycles and report to you at your next meeting.
Thank you so much, Felix. Any comment on UKSPF? Thank you. We're happy to approve. Thank you so much. Super. Okay, moving on. Our next item on the agenda, which is governance arrangements. And Caroline, you show enormous patience because every time we have a meeting, your item is right at the end. So if I could come to you, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just checking there isn't an item, portfolio summary before that.
Ah, yes. There is an item 14C. Is that?
There is, Mayor. It's for information. So it's...
Oh, yes, it is ahead. Apologies, my mistake.
Yeah, I could just say a word
Please,
on that.
yeah,
So,
please do.
So truth be told, I'm quite excited about this item, even though it is just for information, because what it does is it's our attempt to show the programme implications for the project's individual decisions that are coming forward to the Combined Authority. So if, assuming we're happy to take comments after the meeting, depending on whether you like the format or not, but we'll bring papers of this, an annex of this form that just gives you the overall programme impacts from the individual decisions and shows you the state of the programmes overall. Thank you.
Thank you. That gives us real clarity of direction of travel, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Any comments? Thank you. Caroline, back to you. Thank you so much on governance arrangements.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. Yes, governance arrangements. This time around does three different things. The first is at the last meeting of the CA, members agreed to appoint substitute members to thematic committees, and we have been working with our officers in your councils to get nominations for those, and they're here as Appendix 1 to the report. So we are seeking approval to the appointment of those substitute members to our thematic committees, and for completeness that we grant them full voting rights, so that when they attend they're able to fully participate. So that is the first recommendation here. The second one is a deferred one from last time, and it is to seek your approval to appoint our new director for bus franchising, which is Paul Matthews. So a very key and welcome addition to the team in terms of this very important programme. So we're seeking your approval to that. And then thirdly, we are looking for some changes to the current delegations to officers that are in place, which sit with the role of Chief Operating Officer. So we have a hiatus in that role at the moment, with Alan Rees leaving earlier in the year. And to ensure good administration and good governance, we're proposing some interim arrangements to cover those delegations. So the first one is in terms of the role of Senior Information Risk Officer, and the proposal there is that my role as monitoring officer is also designated as a Senior Information Risk Officer, so that we have that covered for the organisation. And then secondly, we have a series, two further delegations set out at paragraph 3.10 there. So one of the functions was in relation to HR, and we're proposing that sits with the Assistant Director People and Transformation, which is Joe Dent. And then also authority to negotiate and settle claims on behalf of the combined authority. In terms of that limitation, we're proposing that the Chief Executive Ben still holds that responsibility, but also the existing delegation to my role and Director of Finance, the threshold for that is increased to match that of the Chief Executive, to ensure that we have the resilience between us as officers should the Chief Executive not be available. I think the key thing there is that at any settlement value over £20,000, whichever officer takes that, is in consultation with the other statutory officers, but also in consultation with the Mayor. So I think so no individual can and has that authority alone. So those are the recommendations, Mayor, before you. Happy to take any questions as always. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions on those governance arrangement changes? No, thank you. Are we happy to approve? Happy to approve. Thank you. Okie doke, we're coming to the end of the meeting now. Thank you for your contributions and patience. Item 16 is for information, updates members with details of the minutes from committees, as well as summaries from formal meetings that have been published on the Combined Authorities website since the last meeting. So thank you very much for attending. Can I remind members the next meeting is the 8th of May 2025, the day before my birthday, which will flowers and cake will be welcome, which will commence at the revised time of 2:00. So thank you all for attending and for your contributions. And I am continually optimistic and positive about the future of West Yorkshire because of your contribution. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. If you could turn off, thank you.